I was taking pictures of my friend when we were 14, and her mum said that they were really nice pictures of her like pretending to model. So then I was like, yeah, I can do this for the rest of my life, and then that was it.
I try a lot. I manage to exist.
Well, I think inspiration is really important because I think it's what you hold on to. It's what makes, you know, your project's worth it, because, or whatever you're doing, because you've seen something, you admire it, and then you wanna reach that too.
The sublime. Well, I mean, yeah, you've got different forms of sublime. So you've got kind of art, which reaches the sublime. You've got just occurrence, which reaches the sublime. I mean, even like pain and terror and bad things, they can be sublime because they can be so truly kind of that hatred or whatever. I don't know, that bad stuff. I mean, I see a lot of history as kind of sublime because we can so easily impose a character on it, even if that may be false, even if we may be misinformed. It's like you see World War II, you know, of all the bad stuff that happened, the Holocaust, kind of mechanised warfare, I guess that was more World War I, all those horrible things. But in some sense, because it's history, because it's written in the stone tablets of our society, it's somewhat sublime, because it's everything that's your backdrop, but you can't connect to it, but it's so connected to you.
Well, I think I've just always been obsessed with like old school photographers, or like the original masters of photography. So people like Richard Avedon, August Sander, even like as far back as like Talbot stuff. Yeah, I just think, because it feels true. I think photography like that feels true. It does, it feels honest.
You know, I never grew up with a massive backlog of music. I mean, I had some good music, but my family were never really those kind of people. I wasn't really exposed to it, and suddenly I was in secondary school and I was listening to, you know, The Doors, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath. I mean, I still listen to those now. I think it's kind of like the genius thing. It's like, I don't believe people are geniuses, but I believe people can kind of channel genius. And sometimes that comes out sublime, but obviously then you've got like the phenomenology of it, like the perception. And it's obviously there's nothing that's objectively sublime. I mean, in my view, I mean, some people might call that God.
I think that's the reason why a lot of people do it. They strive to make something that is attractive, and I think it is achievable, but only to someone. I don't think there can be anything that everyone is going to think is gorgeous. But I definitely think it's achievable in the sense that you can look at something and think, no, that's beautiful. But then if you achieve that, then what's the fucking point? Because you've done it. So surely the reason that we make stuff is to just be striving to make the perfect thing.
I think certainly the ability to kind of hypothesize, to kind of scheme in your own mind is there's a truth to that, and that's something that you can really bring through with like the power of words.
Why do you create music?
I don't know why I create music. I have no clue. I mean, I always say 90% of everything I do is terrible. So that probably means 80% is objectively terrible and 10% is just my self-loathing. I mean, that's something that probably a lot of artists share, and it's good to be critical. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of an emotional thing. I mean, just even sometimes the tone of a guitar on something you've come up with, and the fact that you've come up with it maybe over a couple of years into new sections and new ways that it's come about. It's almost like a nostalgic course of your own development in your thought and your expression.
I think the reason like I do photography is because I'm inspired by people, like people. That my biggest form of inspiration is people. So whether it can come from like a conversation with a friend, and like a subject to me that's really interesting is grief and faith, and I think they work together. And my friend's mum is just totally fucking riddled with grief. Like, she lost her sister and her dad in the same year, and she hasn't been the same since, and she talks about it every day, and it's just like that inspires me to want to do a project, you know, a conversation with a person. Or I walk into McDonald's and I meet a man that counts on his hands, and then I think that's a fucking project, you know. So inspiration is people, and my photography is about people, because I think in the end that's all you've got.
If I'm in a rut, I like the premise. I like a premise. Yeah. I've written about some ridiculous things. I mean, I read a strange poem the other day about a man hallucinating in the desert from an 80s kind of half porno, half sci-fi magazine. And I wrote a poem about it, and I was like, you know what, that was a good poem. To find inspiration, as I said, with the whole kind of life events things, it tends to find a different form every time. I mean, music is so varied genre-wise that sometimes it can just be an idealisation of a certain person, sometimes it can be an idealisation of a certain kind of sound. I think for the way in which I interact with art, music, anything, you know, to read about the people who did that kind of takes away from the art itself. You know? I'm a strong believer in death of the author, and I think if it wasn't for that, then I wouldn't release anything, because the only thing that makes me ever want to release anything is that people tell me I should.
Why haven't you given up at what you do if you haven't found an image that you're proud of yet?
Because that's the point. Because if I feel like, fuck yeah, that's the image. I was completely a cocky bellend when I, you know, left college. I thought that I was the bee's fucking knees. Then you do a degree and you realise that, you know, actually the world isn't this big. It's fucking massive. And you know, you get brought down a peg or two. And I think, to go back to what you were saying, that you have to carry on, because in photography or the arts or life, because it's never like, you can't expect to get there straight away. You just can't.
I believe strongly in kind of an epiphany, in there being, after certain life events, there being a before and an after. And I mean, I don't know, but since 17 to 20 now, about every 3, 4, up to 6 months, I'm getting one of those. You know, there's before that point of realisation, there's after that point of realisation. And I hope it keeps going that way, because, I mean, in hindsight, you seem like an idiot to yourself. And a lot of my stuff that I've created, a lot of my poems I've written, lyrics I've written, even though unreleased, you know, like maybe that's the expression or the moment of realisation. And because it holds such a kind of gravitas in my mind, I guess that's that 20%. And because that's so important to me, I can't view it as bad. I don't necessarily view it as good, but I think I'm saying something at those points.
It's like, I'll meet someone in the street and have a conversation with them, and I can walk away and just like well up, because I just feel so fucking humbled that a complete stranger I've had an interaction with and made a connection. And that is what photography for me is about, and life, because like I said, that's all you've got. And like, I haven't kicked the bucket or decided to give up, because there's still so much more for me to learn about people and about photography. And if I gave up now, I would just spend the rest of my life completely regretting it.
Could you imagine life without your creative side?
Yes, I could. I would I mean, yeah, I mean, you see it all the time. It's quite sad, really. I think no one can live without being creative, but I think it can definitely go away.